Welcome to Fit in Fitness, the podcast that proves movement isn't just for the gym, it's for life. I'm Carly Fouth, also known as Fit Fun Carly. I'm a cancer survivor, fitness mentor, and founder of the Fit in Fitness method. This all started from my chemo chair, where I began sharing stories to bring hope and resilience to people going through cancer. Now I'm taking it further, expanding beyond my own breast cancer fight to highlight people from all walks of life who've used movement and mindset to overcome life's biggest curveballs. Whether you're facing illness, lost, or just feeling stuck, these are stories of grit, joy, and the small, powerful steps that can change everything. Welcome back to the Fit in Fitness podcast. Today, I am excited, and I'm going to try to say her name the Spanish way, to welcome Claudia Taboada. Did I do okay? Okay, yes, to the podcast. Claudia is a stress resilience and menopause expert, which we love to talk about here on the Fit in Fitness podcast. She's a 2-time Amazon bestselling author, a marathoner, so I like her already, and creator of the More Muscle movement. It's a strength-first approach that helps women thrive through midlife and beyond. And she believes that menopause isn't the beginning of a decline. It's an opportunity to build power, resilience, and long-term health, which I love. So today we're going to talk a little bit about muscle menopause and what women really need to know to feel strong and capable as they age, which is what I'm all about. So Claudia, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have this chat with you.
And it's a privilege to be here and to be speaking to your audience.
So excited. So let's start right, because everybody wants to talk about perimenopause and menopause within my realm, within my audience. So I think a lot of people, and I know this to be a fact, think that menopause means that everything slows down. There's so much research coming out about menopause. We talk a lot about menopause more than we used to, but you say it's actually the time to build power. So I'm curious, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, it is the time to build power because it's menopause. It's more than just hot flashes. Menopause is a huge physiological transition that puts our bodies in survival mode, and it affects everything. Muscle loss, there's muscle loss, bone density loss. There's a rise in inflammation. There is also, blood sugar levels get dysregulated, and there is more risk of falls and fractures. So it is it is a time for women, especially midlife women, who have been putting everyone else, on their priority list. It's time for us to put ourselves at the top of our priority list, realize that menopause is not just this hot flash thing. It's more than that, and that we need to finally become the CEOs of our health. If we want to age with power, and if we want to have a good quality of life in the future.
And I love that you said that fact that most women are used to being the caregivers and the caretakers. And it's really hard for women who have been in that role for so long to understand that they can put themselves first. And it's good to put yourself first, because you can't take care of people the way you want to take care of them unless you take care of yourself first, especially if you're not working on muscle as the foundation for health in midlife. Like, just think about it. If you're not working on your own strength and you have to take care of aging parents, or you're a grandmother and then you have to run around with your grandkids. And if you don't work on those things, you're going to not be able to do the things and take care of the people you love. So what are some of the biggest misconceptions, because social media and all this information that's out there, that women have about strength training after 40?
There's a few misconceptions. One of the big ones are that women are going to become bulky by lifting weights. But women, not only they don't have the testosterone to become bulky, but also with the drop of estrogen levels, that creates muscle loss. So it's extremely hard for women to build muscle already. So it's not about, I see men at the gym. Even men cannot become like the Hulk, because they if you want to become like the Hulk, you probably need performance enhancing drugs. So women do not have the testosterone to become like the Hulk. And also with the drop of estrogen levels, there is already muscle loss going on. And also with aging, there's already muscle loss going on. So it is extremely hard to build muscle. So that is why we need to be proactive. So that's one. The other one is that we think that muscle is just to look good in a bikini. But muscle, or it's the organ of longevity. It is what It is involved in, it helps decrease inflammation. It helps regulate blood sugar levels. It helps boost metabolism. And it also helps us prevent falls and fractures. So there is all this, the muscle is so important. And the problem is that doctors don't tell us this. We don't know about this. And this is one of the things that doctors should be telling women as they enter the menopause transition. Ladies, we need to be proactive at building muscle, because muscle is going to help us counteract a lot of the silent symptoms of menopause that are happening in our bodies. So we need to be proactive about building this organ of longevity.
100%. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk a little bit about the women who may be listening, because I hear this all the time. Women who reach a certain age, they are exercising regularly, but they still feel tired. They can't lose the weight and they're losing strength. Explain a little bit about what's happening physiologically that they may not understand, because it's frustrating.
Yes. Yeah. So what's happening is, and I am going to share a little bit about my story, but what happening in general is, it depends what kind of exercise they are doing and how, because women have been told that we need to move more and eat less. Okay. So move more. And because, like what used to work in our 20s, like, lots of cardio. So lots of cardio. So moving more. We want to be drenched in sweat, because that means that we are burning a lot of calories. So that, and on the other hand, we are also eating less. So we're either detoxing or fasting or doing all these things, and probably eating less protein. And this is putting our bodies in survival mode. It is the perfect storm, because not only we're, trying to be on the elliptical or sweating every day, and we're not eating enough, especially not enough protein. We're not recovering enough. We're not sleeping well. So this is the perfect storm that leads to us losing muscle, to muscle depletion. And I'm going to share my story here.
Yes.
I used to be a marathon runner. I ran 23 marathons, including the 6 biggest marathons in the world. And I was eating healthy, but I was not eating enough protein. And all of a sudden, at 54, I had my autistic son had a big behavioral regression. And at the same time, I was going all in with my business. So I had, my chronic stress was high. I was running 70 kilometers per week, and I wasn't sleeping well, and all of a sudden my weight starting to creep up, but like really fast. And I didn't know what was happening. I mean, I was eating healthy. I was exercising lots and sweating lots, but I was still gaining weight. And that's when I went to the doctor, and I told the doctor what's happening. A midlife woman doctor. She said, well, how old are you? 54. This is what happens at your age. Like, it's just aging. So, it's kind of like you kind of have to accept it. And I said, no way. I'm not, this is not what my life is going to be. So anyways, that's what I went on a journey to discover what was happening with my body. And I had an in-body scan that was showing that I was losing muscle. I was gaining visceral fat. And that was my wake-up call when I decided to go all in and find out what was happening. And that's where I realized that, the loss of muscle, the importance of muscle, and the fact that I was losing muscle with my lifestyle. Because I was, trying to lose weight by doing more cardio and sweating a lot, and thinking that I was eating healthy, but I was not eating enough protein. I was not preserving my muscle. So, of course, I was exhausted. I was gaining weight, especially, the belly fat around the middle, and, nothing was working. Nothing was working until I realized, the importance of muscle, and I had to change my strategy. And it was not because of lack of willpower. I was working out. It was not lack of discipline. I was a marathon runner running, 70 kilometers per week. So it was not, that I was not working more. I was doing everything that I was thinking I was doing right, but nothing was working. And it's because, once we enter the menopause transition, we need to be extremely careful about, the stress, because we are less resilient to stress. All these lifestyle things that used to work in our 20s no longer work. And that's why we need to become more aware about the importance of building muscle, about the importance of recovery, about the importance of putting, prioritizing sleep, and of course, nutrition. So nutrition, we want a high protein, high fiber, anti-inflammatory nutrition, because once we enter the menopause transition, also inflammation goes up. So we want to modify the nutrition, modify the way we exercise, and the way that we recover as well.
Yes. And I think you're speaking to me. I was that person who needed that cardio hit all the time, and I've had to reevaluate how I do things. So I know that you are probably hitting a nerve with a lot of listeners, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's me. And I know a lot of people feel overwhelmed with all the information. They may even feel overwhelmed with all the information you just said, because there's so much to think about when you think about the nutrition and the sleep and the exercise. So where should somebody who's listening start? Like, what's the first thing that somebody should do if they want to embrace your more muscle approach? Like, what is step one? To you, what is the most important thing that a woman should do, like today? What could they do?
I would go with nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
I would go with nutrition and making sure that at least we're getting a high protein breakfast. Why is that so important? So ideally, a savory breakfast around eggs, maybe.
That's what I have. Sugar. I have 2 boiled eggs with nothing on it. I just eat the eggs and I love it.
And then I would add 2 boiled eggs. Maybe I would add some Greek yogurt, because you want to increase your protein levels. Yeah, because eggs, it's only 7 grams of protein, 1 egg per egg. So that's 14 grams.
That's not as good as it could be.
To between 30 to 40 grams of protein. So you can have your 2 eggs, but add some Greek yogurt, unsweetened Greek yogurt with berries, to increase your protein target. So we want about 30 to 40 grams of protein in the morning, a breakfast. Why is that? Because that will already stabilize your blood sugar levels.
Mm-hmm.
So you want that. So you want that protein. And if you're strength training, that's going to help you build muscle. So we want a high protein breakfast. So that's number 1. And then the number 2 is pick up those dumbbells, ladies. Mm-hmm. Pick up those, and you don't have to become a bodybuilder overnight.
That's what I say. You don't have to be a power lifter. Heavy is your heavy. Wherever you're starting, that's heavy.
Yes, exactly. I started with body weight. Because I was running marathons, but I wasn't strength training. So I started from scratch, like from body weights, like doing squats, doing push-ups, things like that. And then after 2 months, once I was, more familiar with those movements, then I started to pick up the dumbbells. And what I did, and what I tell my clients to do, is maybe go to the gym and pay a trainer 1 to 3 sessions, so that they can either give you a program and they can show you how to do the exercises, because you want to make sure that you are doing them right, that you have good form, so that you can increase the weight, you can increase the loads, because it's the progressive overload, like or increasing the weight, that is going to build the muscle.
Yes. And there's so many parallels between perimenopause and menopause and chemo, like chemo treatments, because chemo does the same thing that, obviously it's from something you're putting in your body, but it eats muscle for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it throws off your body the same way that going through menopause does. So I feel like me going through chemo, I don't know if I would have been so aware of the changes in my body going through perimenopause had I not gone through chemo, because I really had to pay attention to my protein intake. Yes. I really had to pay attention to lifting. And let me tell you, it's humbling when you're lifting a certain weight and then you have to go down and that's heavy to you. But it doesn't, but that's a true test that it doesn't matter. Do what your heavy is and keep working. Exactly. You have to accept that your body is going through these changes, whether it be perimenopause or menopause or cancer, that your body's going through these things. It doesn't mean you quit. It means you figure out how to adapt to keep progressing. And thinking, I just thought of this morning when I was lifting weights, and I was like, wow, I looked at this one set of weights and I was like, that used to be my heavy. I was like, I could barely push those weights up off the floor. And I've had to buy 2 sets of weights since then, progressing, and now I can lift them. And it's taking the time, similar to what you said, when you are making these changes and you start to do the things the correct way, taking the time to notice how it's showing up in your body instead of the 6-pack abs and the bulging biceps. How do you feel? Like
Exactly.
that to me, do you work with people with that too? Like creating the experience around it of the feeling of empowerment, not just the physical
Yeah.
part. Because what do you say to a woman who, like we talked about before, is doing the work, and has these changes going through her body and is so unhappy because she can't see the results in her waistline or in her, what do you say to that woman listening who is doing it, but is having a hard time accepting the fact that it's not showing up where she wants to see it in the time that she wants to see it? Because it takes time.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I tell them is to have a why, to connect to a why. So what is a why, to something that is going to almost make you cry? And I try them to connect to them in 30 years, or
Mm-hmm.
them, how do you want to feel when you are 75, when you're 80, and you are hiking, you are picking up your grandchildren, you're running with your grandchildren? That is what I want you to think. It's not about the now, it's about the future.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the change that I had to make, because, I was addicted to getting medals from the marathon medals and all that stuff. And I had to go back to like scratch and starting from scratch to do my strength training. And now it's like I love my lifestyle, because I know that this lifestyle of strength training and eating the protein and eating properly and all that to protect and to build muscle is what's going to allow me to age powerfully. And that's,
Yep.
it's, we kind of, because clients come to me, it's like, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds, or I want to, but eventually they realize that it's not about the becoming skinny. It's about aging with power.
Yes.
This is what we want.
I totally agree. And now I'm going to ask you a question, which isn't anything that we've talked about. It's just it's something that you just said that I didn't know about you. And we can also edit it out if you don't feel comfortable answering it. But I know that there might be a lot of parents listening, mothers listening, who are parents of children with special needs like autism. And I know that brings up, I did an episode on this a couple of months ago, a woman who was a marathon runner. And we talked about how hard it is to carve out the time for yourself when you are a parent of a special needs child and you have so much that you have to take care of and it's just overwhelming. What advice do you have for that woman who may be listening, who just feels like, I have so much on my plate and like I need to take care of my child and I don't have the time? Like, where can that woman start? Like an actionable tip, you having lived it, that they could do to incorporate strength or to take the first step today in taking control of their wellness.
I'm going to share with you my story. So I was that mom. I was actually an attorney before I quit my career to take care of my son. And what was supposed to be 1 year sabbatical turned into more than a decade. So, and during that time, I did not exercise. I lost myself. I was just the caregiver. I had a caregiver burnout, and I actually started small. And by accident, my son was gifted a guide dog, and I started taking the guide dog for walks. At the beginning, this was a house chore, because I said, how am I going to take this dog out for walks? But I started taking the dog out for walks 5 minutes. This 5 minutes turned into 10 minutes, because I started to, I saw the difference, and I realized, my God, this is the first time that I am by myself, reconnecting with myself and taking care of myself. So those 5 minutes turned into 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Then I started jogging, because my neighbors were joggers, and I ran my first 5K race and then 10K race. But that's how my journey began, my journey back to me and journey back to my health. So I would say, start small, go for a 10-minute walk, and be, you need to set some boundaries. Ask for help. Do not feel guilty that you're asking for help. It can be either your partner, or it can be another friend, who you can return the favor later, but make sure that you have some time for you to reconnect with yourself, because you need this. You need this. Otherwise, you're going to end up like me. I had caregiver burnout. So
yeah, and I was going to say, it helps you be a better caregiver for the person that you love. You need it, and you probably won't know how much you need it until you do it. Like you said, with that building block of a 5-minute walk. That's great advice. I like that. I think a lot of people are going to be able to take that and build from there, because the sky's the limit once you get started.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Claudia. I hope you can come back and do another episode with me, a part 2.
Yeah, I would love to. Yes.
Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me on Fit in Fitness. My hope is that every episode inspires you to see movement as medicine for your body, mind, and spirit. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please follow the show, share it with a friend, and keep moving forward, one step, rep, or breath at a time. Until next time, keep fitting in fitness wherever life takes you.